Today marks the end of National Vocation Awareness Week. The annual celebration is a time to learn more about the many forms of religious life, and a new book examines the formation of the faithful from the perspective of a seminary rector. In Forming Families, Father Carter Griffin aims to give advice to parents on becoming saints and raising children to be saints. In the book, Father Griffin, rector of the St. John Paul II Seminary in the nation's capital, adapts the 4 pillars of priestly formation and applies them to family life. The book is filled with interviews from Catholic parents and examples from the lives of the saints. And Father Carter Griffin joins us now. He is, again, the rector of the St. John Paul II Seminary right here in the nation's capital, and also the author of the just-released book, Forming Families, Forming Saints. Father Griffin, great to have you on this show. We really appreciate it.
It's good to be here.
Well,
that's so good.
So much to talk about. But first, talk to us about why you decided to write this book, Father, and why now?
Yeah. What's a celibate priest doing writing to parents about raising kids? I mean, I think I've been doing this work for a long time, 15 years almost, and I've just been so edified by the wisdom that the church has in forming priests and forming religious sisters and brothers. And in my conversations with a lot of married couples that I know, I've come to realize that a lot of what the church has learned about forming human beings is really helpful for parents too. And so it had never been done before, and I just thought it'd be a helpful, it's not the whole picture, but there's some really important things that the church knows in formation and trying to convey those in a language that makes sense for parents in the 21st century.
Yeah, it's wonderful, and it is needed. I know the book also mentions the 4 pillars of priestly formation. Can you talk about that and how they can help, in the family environment?
Yeah, sure. So the 4 pillars were actually sort of defined by St. John Paul II in a landmark document back in the early 1990s. And the pillars are the human, the spiritual, the intellectual, and then in a seminary environment, the 4th one we call the pastoral pillar. But for the book, I turned it into apostolic, because the pastoral is more specifically about becoming a pastor. But the apostolic is the outward look, And so what this does is it enables us to make sure that different areas of life, we can focus so much on one, say just focus on the intellectual, or maybe even focus just on the spiritual. But if we're missing all 4, then there's going to be gaps, and we're going to limp. And so making sure that each of those 4 areas, and so I break down the four areas into 5 chapters each, and I cover different things. Order and chastity and the Eucharist and spiritual reading and all kinds of different, including setting up a vocations culture really in the family, relevant for this week. So all these different areas and some lessons that we've learned from the seminary broken down into those 4 years to make sure that somebody is really growing on all fronts.
Yeah, that's so great. And it always starts in the family environment too.
Yeah.
Tell us about the seminarians that you work with. Kind of give us an idea of who they are, their backgrounds, and why they chose the vocation.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think our seminary, it's a sort of a mid-size for a college seminary where 45 to 50 guys, say, in an average year from different dioceses, mainly from this general area. But I find that the men, and I visit a lot of other seminaries and am in touch with a lot of other rectors, and know that I think that they would feel the same way, that the young men coming into the seminary are very edifying in many respects. They are committed to the church. They're faithful. They're zealous. They're open and transparent. They really want to be formed. And I think the future looks very, very hopeful and bright when you see. I mean, the numbers are not obviously where we'd like them to be, but the quality is very good. Obviously, they're coming from a culture that is in many ways very wounded, hence the book. But we also have a lot more resources, and I think a lot more knowledge than even just a couple of decades ago about how to address some of those wounds. And so the church takes her time in forming priests in particular, and religious sisters and brothers. But the quality of the men coming in and the families that are sending them are just top notch, and I can't say enough about them.
Almost out of time, but quickly, what advice would you give to those that are considering a vocation?
I think the most important thing is don't do it alone. Find somebody, a spiritual mentor who can walk with you, a parish priest, for instance, and above all, don't do it alone. Bring Jesus into this. Like, have an interior life, making sure you're getting to the sacraments, Mass and confession, having a prayer life, spiritual reading, being close to Our Lady. These are the staples, the bread and butter of the interior life, but they're also the bread and butter of discerning a vocation well. And it's the most extraordinary, beautiful life imaginable. So if you do have a vocation to the priesthood, at least I can speak for that, you've kind of won the jackpot.
Father, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about all this. We appreciate it. God bless you.
Thanks, Tracy.